I think it's time to have a great speech, which I look forward to, from Kate Robertson. Kate, a warm welcome to you. You just arrived from London. Thank you very much for being here. Merci. Je sais que Kate parle un petit peu français, alors peut-être elle fera une toute petite introduction en français avec un ou deux mots, et ensuite elle s'exprimera auprès de vous en anglais sur ce thème « How to make the world a better place », mais plus clairement « Delivering a different future », ce qui est très prometteur. Kate, the floor is yours. Merci.
Je suis désolée de ne parler français, and that'll be enough of that. I would just like to share with you very briefly something very personal. I studied law at the University of Cape Town many years ago. And when I first heard of INSEAD, I really, as a student in South Africa, I was in awe of this great school. And many years after that, my nephew, who had been practicing law at Clifford Chance, and afterwards at the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, had said to me he was going to do an MBA. And I said, oh, you have to go to INSEAD. This is, and I explained to him, he will deny it today, but I told him about INSEAD. And he graduated his MBA at INSEAD. And he today is the managing director, legal counsel for Barclays Futures in New York. So he has a fabulous job, well done, INSEAD. And he's never impressed with me. But when I told him on Sunday I was talking to you, he was very impressed with me, so thank you. I think Antoine and I were just commenting a few moments ago. This is now a difficult platform because everybody has really said everything. So I will try to move it on a pace. And something I discussed with Jean-Marc is that we would talk about actually delivering a better future, not just believing that it could be better, not only the dream or the vision, but what does it mean to deliver that? Some years ago, it's about 6 years ago, when the guy who is my boss today, who's very young, took over the running of Havas, he said to us, that our business, we're a creative industry, and that he felt very strongly that from time to time we should use our creative talents to, instead of just selling another television set that you didn't need, we should use our creative talents to make the world a better place. And honestly, all of us went, yeah, you know, moving on. But he's a very persistent person. I think this is leadership. Persistence gets the job done. And he went on, and I have a lot of time for him, and hey, he's my boss. And eventually I got to a place where I felt that we had an idea for something that might do a little bit of good. So I'll take you to some of the inspiration for that. And it's this. And if I tell you one or two of these stories with great emotion, trust me, it's this much of the emotion that I really feel. You know, women in business, we don't do emotion. We feel it, but we keep it at home. So in 2008, David, my boss, and I were asked by Kofi Annan to create a campaign for him towards COP15, the climate change talks in Copenhagen at the end of that year. And, at the end of 2009. And we embarked on that process extremely naively. And boy, did we have a lot to learn. We learned about open sourcing the campaign, which is not normal for our industry. We don't open source anything. We learned about it, David's idea. We learned about working with wonderful Kofi, who is Africa's great statesman, but he's not a campaigner. And he did tell us that, so we had to work that out. But we did enormous work throughout that year. Our campaign gathered 17 million supporters. The next closest campaign was 840,000. Was it enough? No, of course it wasn't. Was COP15 a grand failure? Oh, yes, it was. But the thing that killed me was this, and I wasn't expecting this, and I'm not a child, but how naive we are in the world. We went to Copenhagen. I don't know, were any of you there at COP15? You were lucky. I don't get depressed easily. There were around 12, maybe 15,000 people inside the Bella Center. So all of us and the UN functionaries and the heads of government and every mayor you've ever heard of, every politician making a name for themselves was there. And the whole of the UN, needless to say. If you were in the center, you realized there really wasn't a framework for agreement, whatever they said. There also was absolutely no chance of anything emerging from those talks. Call me naive. I had campaigned for this for a year. I bloody nearly killed myself. I didn't know that they had no means of delivering a damn thing. But you know what killed me, other than the waste of my time? Outside the Bella Center, it was minus 17 degrees centigrade. I am not from Northern Europe. I nearly died of cold. It was minus 17 degrees centigrade. But outside the Bella Center, manning the barricades, your French barricade or barricade, you know about these, were about 25,000 people. I don't think there was anybody there who was over 30. Holding placards, believing that something would come, believing that the elected leaders and the UN and all the rubbish people that were in the Bella Center were going to do something. And do you think any of us, or any world leader, because no one wants to hear me anyway, was prepared to go out to those children on those barricades and say, go home. We have failed you. You are freezing to death for no reason. We have no answer. We've destroyed the bloody planet. Go home. No, no, no. And as I say, I'm not a depressive person. I'm an African. I don't get depressed. I spent that night awake. I did not sleep all night. I was so shocked and so appalled. And frankly, we go to Davos every year, and it's great for networking. Those of you who go there know this. But this year in January, I listened to the European finance ministers, IMF and all those people, talking about the crisis in the Eurozone. And I had a sense of French words coming, wait for it, déjà vu. Because the previous year, in the same room, and almost the same people, told us the same stuff. But as far as I know, things got a hell of a lot worse in that year. Do you know what? In business, if we behaved like that, we wouldn't have jobs. So for me, I look as an older person, I look and I say, there's a lot wrong. You know, when you're at school, my mother used to do this to me all the time. Everything was not good enough. Yeah? Dean, where are you? Reading lips, not good enough. And this really, if you need a reason to change stuff and to think about delivering a better future, let's do this. Who in this room has children? Hands up. Oh, it's a lot of you, okay? You've got a reason for delivering a better future, and that's your children, yeah? So get over yourselves and work that one out. I believe, and my boss believes, I am a dyed-in-the-wool capitalist. I believe that business is this engine, and business is this thing that can deliver. Why do I believe that? Because business often has bad intentions, but it has superb execution. The NGO community, great intentions, mostly the execution's crap. And governments, don't even talk about it, not worth a discussion. Okay, so here is this thing. Here we are with all the might and the power of business, which I believe in absolutely. I believe in it intensely. I really do believe that business can deliver. I have to believe because I have a daughter. I have to believe that there is change, that there can be change. So challenged by my boss, I had this, again, naive and quite stupid idea that as opposed to a Davos or old people like me getting together and messing up the world a little bit more than we did the year before, that it would be a good thing if we tried to bring young would-be leaders together and got people of real importance like yourselves to listen to those young people and go, you know what? Maybe they're right. Maybe we shouldn't wreck the planet. Yeah? Hey, maybe we should listen to Nouriel Roubini at Davos when he says it's all going to blow up. Do you know Professor Roubini made that speech at Davos? January 2006, he said exactly what was going to happen in the banking crisis. So anytime bankers at peace, anytime a banker, a business person, or God forbid a head of government says to you, we didn't know, bullshit, they knew. Roubini was told to sit down and go back to Turkey. So ask yourselves what the leaders are doing. These are not leaders for good, this is leadership for bad. If you put young people into these situations, there are some here tonight, if you ask a young person, how do they want the world to be in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time? What do they think you, in your highly paid, powerful job, should be doing? They will tell you specifically and clearly and in detail what you should do. And you, because you were lazy like me, will find 100 excuses why you shouldn't do it. But these young people do hold us to account. So David and I thought, right, fine. Here's lesson number one. We'll bring all these young people together and we'll get wonderful companies like Unilever, like Barclays to sponsor. First mistake. Young people don't like that kind of sponsorship and they won't play that game. Oh, shock horror. So we had to learn that. Young people want to go to a summit where they do the talking, not people like me do the talking. They want to decide what they talk about. They want to decide what the solutions are. Truth to tell, all over the world, there are gatherings of young people and young leaders. One Young World was not the first. What's the problem? Nobody cares. Because those gatherings of those young people are not famous and are not covered by the media, nobody cares. We can ignore those young people and carry on our merry way. So we thought, because we're good at marketing, because that's what we do in our day jobs, we thought, fine, if we brought young would-be leaders together with really, 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 really famous people, the media would pay attention. Got that right. Easy one. This year, we're about to have the third summit, which is in 2 weeks' time, which is why if I look really old, I don't look as old as I'm feeling. The third summit is in 2 weeks' time in Pittsburgh in the States. Represented there by 1,300 young people will be 183 countries. There's more countries represented than any other non-governmental organization. But the miracle at One Young World is not the summit. The miracle at One Young World is what those young people do. And we say to them, and the counselors repeatedly say to them, don't be serial conference goers. Tell us what you want us to do. Tell us what you believe, and you go and do, and we will make the way for you. So, when you go to these great and famous people, what do they say? Do they say, you're talking rubbish, I don't care about what young people think? Yes, they say that if they're the mining companies, any of you, CEOs from the big mining companies, failing. But there are lots of business leaders who say to us, I agree with you, I believe you, let's ask the young ones. Our biggest champion has definitely been Paul Polman at Unilever. Quelle surprise. Another champion is somebody who's just been through a wall of fire over the last few months, is the new CEO of Barclays, Anthony Jenkins, who, like Paul, believes that he can use young people in his organization to get the organization onto a right path. So for me, as a business person, people like Paul and Anthony agree with One Young World. For me, job done. But Kofi, Desmond Tutu, Bob Geldof, Jamie Oliver, Jean-Paul Agon, Fatima Bhutto, all of these people, when we approached them and said to them, could you please give your time for these young people to inspire them, to make the world a better place, what did they say? Not, I'm too busy. They said, give me the date. I'm there. I'm on my way. So that is One Young World. It is not purely about the summit. The summit is a marketing tool. It is a marketing tool to make the views of young people known. This year in February, and I'll just give you here two examples. A One Young World ambassador in Algeria launched the wake-up call in February. The wake-up call was to President Bouteflika and his government to say, please bring young people into the consultation and legislative process. They sent 17,000 faxes, because it's Algeria, it was faxes, not so much email. And 4 days later, the president announced that young people would be put into the consultation processes. Now, you may say, so what, it's nothing. It's not nothing. This is the Maghreb. That is not nothing. We have an ambassador in Nepal who said, do you know that disabled people have no access to government buildings? So if you go in your wheelchair to the town hall, to a government building in Kathmandu, no one needs to talk to you because you can't get into the building. There is no ramp. There is no access in Kathmandu if you have any disability. Our ambassadors arranged a march, a rolling march through Kathmandu, and by now there are over 1,200 ramps have been put onto city halls and government buildings for the disabled. These are just two examples. African student leaders, and this was news to me, have never convened. The last band of brothers of African leadership was the fighters, the freedom fighters, and the guerrillas. If you were a white South African, you used another name, but the freedom fighters were a band of brothers. There hasn't been one since. One of our delegates went back to South Africa after the first summit, contacted the African Union, said, I'm inspired by other people like myself from other countries. I would like to see other African student leaders. African Union said, yes, we have a remit to do that. We just haven't done it. So this boy said, fine, give me the funding and I will organize. They gave him the funding. They've just had their third summit, 43 countries, 89 universities attended. Now, whether we like it or we don't, student leaders are a cradle of future world leadership, whether it's Barack Obama or anybody else. So these children of mine, these One Young World ambassadors in Africa, I believe are making a serious difference and may lead that continent to a better future if the mining companies would just talk to them. Mining companies, anyone you know, Rio Tinto, BHP Billiton, Anglo American, please give them my email, tell them to get in touch with me. I want to have a word. So, these are some of the things that are going on. What I would say to you about this summit, and I will leave you very briefly because I think you're tired and hungry and thirsty, with a very short film where you'll see lots of old people talking, but remember it's a marketing tool, is to urge you and to say this to you. If you know somebody under 30, ideally between the ages of 18 and 25, who you look at and you go, this is a future Paul Polman, this is a future head of government, this is a future dean of a university. If you know that young person, you can give them a life-changing experience and a role in this formidable network of young people who I promise you as I stand here will be the future government leaders and the future CEOs. And I believe them that they will make the world a better place. There are 37 places left at Pittsburgh. The website has it all, oneyoungworld.com. And I promise you, if that's your one thing you do, I promise you, as I stand here, it will be a great thing that you do for that young person and for your children's future. So I thank you for your attention so late and ask you, Nicola, to play the film with lots of noise so everybody's awake. And I thank you.